Real Agents of Change podcast series where we just love to find other real agents of change out in the world. And Rick Peck is doing some big things in my other home state of New Hampshire, New Hampshire Community Foundation. Rick, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what makes a good community foundation.
Good Community Foundation is a community foundation that has its ear to the ground. It gets to know the local nonprofits. It gets to know the causes. It's a good synthesizer. It starts to understand what impact looks like, and then it communicates that to donors and potential donors and the professional advisors that work with these individuals. So it's really a data aggregator, and it's all about, again, looking at things on a high level impact kind of way. So that's why I enjoy working at a community foundation.
How long have you been with the Community Foundation and nonprofits in general?
So I started as a financial advisor. I did that for 7 years. And then I've been in nonprofit fundraising and development work for 17 years. So I was with Dartmouth College for 12 years. And I also worked a part of that time at Dartmouth Hitchcock, which is a major medical center. And I've been at the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation for 5.5 years as the VP for Development and Philanthropy Services.
Got it. Well, you and I have been talking a lot about our favorite topic of charitable gifting of real estate. And when we met, I feel like my chocolate went in your peanut butter or the other way around, because, we're teaching real estate agents and financial advisors how to really partner with nonprofits in this conversation. And then you, as a nonprofit, have been looking for realtors to partner with. Tell our listeners why it might be a good idea for them and maybe their community foundation to really step into this non-cash asset of real estate.
Well, I read a statistic the other day that said something like 95 to 99% of people's assets are in non-cash. So that reason alone is good to talk about non-cash asset donations. And so I feel like a lot of nonprofits spend a lot of time on cash donations and they focus on that. Maybe they'll talk about donating appreciated stock like Microsoft or Apple, but not too often. They're more like about the short-term cash that they can get. In the meantime, I meet Cami and she's talking about real estate donations. And I'm like, I want to talk about real estate donations because there's so much money in real estate. And yet we hadn't seen the volume over time in general that we really should have been seeing in real estate presentations or tangible personal property or life insurance or appreciated securities or closely held stock. It just feels like those things are not really thought about. So promoting the idea of disposing of these appreciated assets, including real estate, is what I do all the time. And I just, when I met Cami, I thought, finally, somebody's singing the same song as I am. She's just coming from the point of view of, I know real estate agents, I'm passionate about donating. And I'm on the other side of that saying, I'm passionate about receiving real estate assets. I just haven't met a lot of people who want to partner with me to do that, either potential donors or real estate agents. So I just feel like the peanut butter and the chocolate came together here a few months ago, and there's lots of potential, I think, ahead here.
Well, and the reason I wanted to do this interview is because I want our nonprofit friends to really understand why. Why would they want to start to engage with the Real Agents of Change, which is our organization? And our organization is made up of realtors and financial advisors and nonprofits and fundraisers and visionary concerned citizens who know, 3% of wealth is in cash, 43% of wealth is in real estate. Our good friend, Dr. Russell James, knows all these. He actually told me that cash is actually 2.7% what people have access to, but 43% is over here in real estate. So I think we are having people watch who know that real estate might be a good idea, but they've been scared of it. What do you think this relationship brings to the table for those people who are maybe a little afraid of even talking about real estate?
Well, I mean, let's lay it on the table. Real estate is more complicated to donate than cash is. Cash is easy, write a check or drop some money in the, Salvation Army kettle on your way into the store. That's easy. Real estate gifts can sometimes take time. They're more complicated. You need to work with a professional who knows how to make real estate gifts happen. And so I guess at the end of the day, they can be scary. A lot of non-cash assets can be scary to work with, but the reality is it's an asset. And if you follow a certain policy or procedure, best practices, due diligence, you'll get there. Again, it won't necessarily happen in a day. It might take a few days, it might take a few weeks, it might even take a few months. But there's a system, and if you partner with the right professionals, the right experts, you'll get there. So it's not something people should be afraid of. They should just say, I need to understand the process. And when people embrace that, that's when you start to unlock all these other assets that are sitting out there on the sidelines that donors don't necessarily know that the nonprofits want. I mean, if they're being asked for cash, they're going to give cash. If they're being asked for $100, they give $100. If they said, do you have any other assets? Do you have any other things that you might be disposing of? Or, yeah, I have this piece of property that's worth $500,000. Nobody's ever asked me about it, but I do want to get rid of it. And I'd love to consider donating it. How often does that conversation happen? Not enough. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about. You're really giving people an opportunity to talk about disposing or doing something with an asset that maybe nobody's talking with them about.
Well, and so often when we talk to nonprofits and community foundations, they'll either say, we don't take real estate, we don't know anything about it, if it ever comes up, we'll give you a call. Or on the other side, they say, well, we do take real estate, but if you ferret down a couple more questions, you find out they'll take it if it's mortgage free, if it's next door, if it's vacant, and it's just wrapped up with a bow on top of it. And what we want people to know is it can be real estate from anywhere in the country, of any size, of any type, and it can be risk-free and no out-of-pocket expense. As a matter of fact, your community foundation is working with our team on a couple of deals right now. And tell us a little bit about that, about the ease of that or your situation.
Yeah, so there's nonprofits who have policies and procedures in place to accept gifts of real estate. And then we go through that due diligence and we decide whether or not we want to take in that gift of real estate. Sometimes the real estate is maybe even too complicated for us. And then we'll bring in an expert or two who have closed a lot of real estate gifts over the years. And they'll say, oh yeah, this one's a little bit more complicated, but we would approach it this way. So I've found, and again, I'm not afraid of this topic, but sometimes they are a little too complicated and messy for the institution to take it on itself. Maybe they don't want to be in the chain of title. Maybe there's some particular reason why it feels too messy. Yet again, partnering with the right experts, they will say, we've seen this before. This is how we work it. We could maybe even speed up the time to do the due diligence. Maybe we can close this gift by the end of the year. And they're not doing it, in a haphazard, careless way. They just happen to know the most efficient way to do it. And so what Cami's talking about, what you're talking about, Cami, is just, it's like, I'm glad I met you and I'm glad I met these people, because now we're starting to really move the needle in making some gifts happen that might not have ever been considered, because somebody would have thrown up their hands at one point and said, I don't know if we can make this work. But then you bring in, again, the right people and it's like, no, we can make this work. You just have to do it this way. So it's been a breath of fresh air.
Well, and we're so glad to have met you, because I have learned so much about community foundations through your wisdom and our fireside chats. I've learned so much about how we can collaborate with them. We're not competition. To the contrary, we are a conduit. We're a catalyst. We are, collaborative partners with the community foundation. Speak to us a little bit about how a community foundation doesn't have just a donor advised fund. There's all kinds of funds that the nonprofits need to know about, that the donors can participate in. Can you give us a little overview of what that looks like?
Yeah, I'd say if you think about talking about donor advised funds, there's Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, they are called commercial donor advised fund sponsors. It's very easy to go online, set up a donor advised fund with them. It's low cost. There's lots of investment choices. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot to like about what these commercial donor advised funds offer. But Cami, what you're talking about is community foundations have actually 6 different types of funds, not just donor advised funds. Donor advised funds are very popular. We have other types of funds that are well suited to donors. An example would be a scholarship fund. You don't necessarily go to Fidelity to set up a scholarship fund with a donation of real estate, but you could donate real estate to a community foundation and they could put some of the net proceeds into a scholarship fund. We also have something called the field of interest fund, where if somebody has an interest in veterans or kids or the environment, then we put the money into that field of interest fund and money is dispersed out of that. The nonprofits could change each and every year, but it always sticks to that one theme. And the same person could do both. They could take the net proceeds of the real estate gift, put half of it in a scholarship fund, put the other half into a field of interest fund. So there's other types of funds as well, where there are things called designated funds, where you help one or more specific nonprofits receive a stream of income annually. We have what's called a flexible fund or an unrestricted fund, where it leaves the disbursement to the discretion of the senior program officers at the community foundation for the highest needs, the most unexpected needs, maybe like COVID is a good example of where an unrestricted fund is really helpful. And then we have other types of funds as well. Agency funds are funds that help a specific nonprofit benefit itself. An agency is set up by a nonprofit to benefit itself. So the agency, the nonprofit, can take in a gift of real estate to give itself its own long-term endowment. So those are just some examples of how community foundations offer a very broad variety of choices regarding funds that are ultimately customized to what the donor is looking for. Donor advised fund is a good fit, but it's not always the best fit. It's not a one size fits all solution. It might be one of many types of funds that someone can choose.
I love how you really opened my eyes to how the community foundation is a great way for the donor who may not have a specific nonprofit in mind, that they can help them. Well, what are your needs? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? You've really taught me a lot about this whole thing. When I learned about charitable gifting of real estate right at 3 years ago, having been in real estate for 15 years, having done fundraisers for a Ronald McDonald House and Make-A-Wish, all the way to a local place that rescued horses in New Hampshire, I saw this and I thought, wow, there's 2 million realtors in this country. What if we educate and certify 1% of them to bring it back to their communities? That was the first thing I thought. And now 3 years later, I've learned so much more. My mind always goes to, how do we strategize? How do we leverage? How do we help each other get in front of the right people? So, now I can see that we are a really good friend to the community foundation, to the nonprofits that we're working with that need to meet the community foundations, to all the property owners. As we bring our conversation to a close, is there a last thing or two that you would like for our viewers to hear?
I would say if you're a realtor, get to know your local community foundation, especially the larger ones. They do have policies and procedures in place around real estate. They will, if needed, partner with other outside entities who know the real estate world really well as far as real estate giving. So don't be afraid to get to know them and just gain some confidence in their knowledge. If you are a donor or a potential donor, don't be afraid to bring forth some ideas around all kinds of non-cash assets you might donate, including real estate. Just open up the conversation, I guess. If I had one message for the audience today, just discard your biases, go and open up the possibility that the thing you never thought could be donated or disposed of can. And especially if the motivation is to do good in the world, to take the money and to make great impact, you could do a lot worse than starting with a local community foundation to get that conversation started. So I'd say just the conversation needs to open up. let's talk and then just see where the conversation goes. But there's so much that we could be doing together to unlock the potential of all these tangible assets.
Well, things change. You know, we go to bed tonight, tomorrow there's a new kind of car, there's a new video game, there's a new way to process credit cards. Like, things are changing so fast today. What I would like for our viewers to hear is, you know, many years ago, plumbing was outside, and somebody had the idea to bring the outhouse inside the house, and people were like, "You're going to bring the toilet inside the house? What are you, crazy?" It's called indoor plumbing, right? You know,
Right.
there was a time that that when Ford was creating the automobile, that people said he was crazy, that that's a contraption that'll never work. And, you know, we see where we are today. So the point is, gifting of real estate is not the way they did it 20 years ago. It is easy, it is risk-free, and there's no money out of pocket when you simply know the right tools and the right contacts. Rick, what an honor to have met you on this journey and to now be, you know, converging and creating different ways to educate your people, our people, to become our people. And I just want you to know how exciting it is for me to meet another visionary to mix our peanut butter and jelly and chocolate all together.
Well, thank you, Cami, and thank you for your leadership. I have never in my career met anyone like you who is out there beating the drum for unlocking the potential of real estate gifts, empowering real estate agents to think differently, to know that this is something that has tremendous potential if we just all lean into it and think about what partnership looks like. So thank you for your visionary leadership. Thank you for introducing me to people who have moved the needle in ways that I haven't thought could be possible. And the best is yet to come.
Well, there you have it, friends. Another interview with the real agents of change. They just get better and better, and higher quality, and people that know all kinds of great people that maybe you need to know. Please feel free to reach out to either of us about specific questions. All of our contact information will be in the show notes. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, Ken.